Okay, cool. Now that we are recording, we can get started. Sweet. I'm so excited that you're all here this morning, and I'm excited to hear everyone talk about convention. This convention coming up is going to be really special because it's our first in-person one in 3 years. And that just feels so ridiculous to say that it's been 3 years since we've had an in-person district convention. I feel like it's been a lifetime. So because we haven't had a convention in so long, it's really important to talk about what that might be like and what to expect. So our first topic today is just point blank, what is convention like? So I'll talk a little bit about that, and then I have a couple questions for y'all to think about. So I was at that convention, that last in-person one, and that's crazy to me because I was a freshman. I think I was either a freshman or sophomore. I don't know. Math is hard, but not I'm like way out of college, which is crazy. But in-person convention is a lot like just virtual district convention, where you are doing committee meetings, you're doing ritual, you're discussing all things Tau Beta Sigma, but instead of being on Zoom for several hours, you're all in one space, moving from different rooms, going to workshops, learning, singing together, playing instruments together, which is really, really exciting. So a district convention in person is a lot like national convention. So for those of you who went to national convention last summer, expect a very similar experience where we're going to have business sessions, and then we're going to break into Tau Beta Sigma and Kappa Kappa Psi specific business. And then we'll do things like ritual, women in music. There'll be a marketplace. So if you want to get Tau Beta Sigma merch, you can do that. We'll have a banquet. So there'll be a really nice dinner, and we'll go over district awards. And it'll just be a really, really good experience. So I guess the first question for today, thinking about either past conventions you've been to or what you think you might be excited about, what is your favorite part about district convention? Or what is something you think you're going to really like? You can just raise your hand, put it in the chat, unmute, whatever works for you. Yeah, Lindsay, what is your favorite part about convention?
I remember for district last year and then for national this year, like Shaban held like a movement workshop, and like I just really liked like the movement aspect of it. So like just like the different workshops and like how like variable things can be.
Yeah, that's a really good answer because I feel like more than a lot of other conventions, TBS convention is just like everything. Like if you go to like a convention for your major or your profession, it's very much like workshop, 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 workshop. The occasional something different, but TBS is like, okay, this hour we're all going to be sitting and doing a drum circle. This next hour we're going to be talking about awesome women in music. The next hour we're going to be with the brothers, and we're going to be having like a social event. And it's just like all of those different puzzle pieces make it such a fun experience. Are there other thoughts on like what your favorite convention parts are? Yeah, Caitlin, that is a fantastic answer. That's one of the best parts about convention, just seeing other people, hearing other ideas, and sometimes just getting validation. Because a lot of chapters struggle with the same things, especially in this pandemic. So just being in a room full of people saying, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Here's what we do. Like that is so helpful. Cool. Any other thoughts? Doing reading band. Yeah. If COVID wasn't so tough right now, we would definitely have a band at convention for people to play in, but we will not this year, but we'll miss it. And there's always future conventions for that. Cool. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next question, which if you is wow, I'm tripping over words today, y'all. The question is, if you could describe convention in 3 words or less, what would it be? I think if I had to describe it, I would say like fun, crazy in a good way, and food. I think that's how I would describe it. Other thoughts on that? Wait, I forgot a big one, sisterhood. I'm changing from food to sisterhood. That's a really important part. Yeah, inspiring, uplifting, and busy. I feel like uplifting is my favorite one of those three words, because I feel like whenever you leave convention, you just feel re-energized and ready to serve. It's like the best thing ever. That's awesome. Other thoughts on what convention could be like? It could even be like conventions in general. Like, how do conventions make you feel? Yeah, Jamie, I love that. Fun, interactive, educative. I like the educative portion too, because there's always things to learn. Even just like at social events, you still learn about like what other chapters are like and where they're at and all that. Very cool stuff. Cool. Moving on to the last question on this topic. What is something you think people should know about convention if they have never been before? If I had to think about that, I would probably say, that's a tough question. Should have thought of my answer ahead of time. You should know that there's a lot of stuff going on and it is okay to not know everything. I feel like at your first convention, and for those of you who have been to multiple conventions, sure you can agree, at your first convention, you're kind of like, I don't know what's going on. There's a lot of information. I've never heard of this before. I've never heard of this chapter before. I don't know who you people are. And by the time you get to like your second or third one, you're like, oh, I know what's going on. We're going to have a lit experience. So I think no, it's okay to be overwhelmed and it's okay to not know everything. And you don't have to pretend like you do. I promise. Katie's point is really good too. Do not forget to eat. It can be hard to find time within the convention schedule to find time to eat. So making sure you have a good breakfast and making sure if you need to step away from something to go get lunch, do it, because it's more important you're taking care of yourself. Yeah. Other thoughts on things you should know about convention? Yeah, Caitlin, I love that. I love it. Love it so much. Soak everything in and pursue every opportunity you can. Absolutely. There's so much to learn and so much to do and so much to see. So what's wrong with taking the back streets? There's a lot you can do. Um, I just watched Shrek 2 because it was on Netflix, so that's like in my mind right now. The Misty Stick Convention isn't as scary as it may seem. Absolutely. It's such a good, fulfilling, fun experience. Yeah, take lots of notes, bring back what you learned to make a difference in your chapter. Yeah, because there's a lot of information and you will not remember it all, and that's okay. So writing down as much as you can and thinking like, okay, I can take this to my VPM, I can take this to my president, and going from there is super helpful. I would also say, don't be afraid to be involved in committees. Even if you are not a delegate for your chapter, you can still go to some committees and learn and talk about like district programming and the ways and means of things in the district and things like that. And that's just a really cool experience. Yeah, use the time to bond with sisters from your own chapter and other chapters. The sisters that you go with, you'll be spending a lot of time with. So it's a really good bonding experience, but it's also good to branch out and meet other people. I think banquet especially is really good for that. If you come in a smaller group, because you can sit at a table and say, like, hi, we're this chapter from this place. Who are you? What's up? Like at national convention last year, I met some people from Florida and like we're still Snapchat friends. We still snap regularly and it was really cool. So like, don't be afraid to make some new friends. Sweet. So that is all I have on the topic of what convention is like. So the next topic we'll move on to is about packing your suitcase. And I believe Rachel from Zeta Alpha is going to take that one.
Hi everyone. So we are going to be discussing two questions today. And the first one, I'll just like ask the question and then I'll provide my own feedback, and then obviously whoever has any input, you can do so at that time. So the first question is, what are the most essential things to pack? And honestly, I have not been to an in-person district convention, but I have a general idea of the essential things to pack. So number one would be formal clothes or business casual, just because there is a component where we will be going through either ritual stuff and or even the banquet. It's just nicer to dress up and just be presentable when being recognized at that time. Another essential thing to pack if you're a delegate, I apologize if I pronounce this incorrectly, a placard. So find your chapter's placard to bring to district convention so you can use that during the time of voting. Another essential thing to pack would be your membership card. You want to make sure that when you attend convention, you are allowed in because you can show them that, yes, you are active. Those are the top three things that I would think that you should pack for district convention. But if anyone has any other ideas, please feel free to shoot them in the chat or unmute yourself.
I would say water bottles. That's something I didn't realize until like convention number, like, I don't even know, like 3 for me. And I was just like, I would lose energy so quickly if I didn't stay hydrated or get food, especially because like even for the virtual ones, like if you're sitting in front of a screen all day was really difficult. And like if you go to an in-person one, it's usually hard to find food because most of the time, like all the convention stuff is in one location and food is like a 5 or 10 minute walk and you don't want to leave and come back. I mean, you can obviously, but like I didn't want to. So bringing a water bottle to stay hydrated and like little snacks, it made the difference at NatCon last year. Absolute game changer.
Anyone else? Also, if you didn't see in the chat, Misty said that she will be giving us our placards at convention, which I didn't know. So there we go. Oh yes, and pins, of course. And if you, as we just talked about from the previous question, if you're big into taking notes and you want to bring those notes back to your chapter, it's probably a good idea to bring a notebook and a pencil just to have something to write on during those workshops. Okay. So the second question is, what would make your convention experience more enjoyable? For Zeta Alpha, personally, I know we have a bigger group going to district convention this year. We have a total of 5 sisters, including myself. So I think for your own chapter, just inviting as many people as you can. It also helps lower the cost of hotel prices or just bringing up the cost for gas, especially now that it's pretty expensive nowadays. But inviting as many people as you can, as well as when you're at the actual convention, not being afraid to talk to a different brother or a different sister that's from a different chapter. Just like Caitlin said, back to our previous questions, just being open to any experience that's offered to you or any interaction, I guess. Yeah, just taking every possible opportunity would just make your district convention experience one not to forget. Does anyone have any other input? I'm also trying to think of more that would be more enjoyable, like would help make it more enjoyable. Oh, you could take like pictures.
It up super well.
Sorry, Julia, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I totally talked over you. I just said you summed it up really well. I'm stumped, but yeah, taking pictures too.
Okay, those are the 2 questions that I had, but thank you for letting me speak today.
Woo, that's awesome. Rachel is like the goat. Rachel speaks to every NCD talk. You're so goated. So our next topic is about making travel plans as a chapter. So we have 2 chapters speaking on that, which is really exciting to me because that's like 2 different perspectives. Pumped about that. So we have sisters from Eta, Zeta, and Zeta Rho talking about travel plans as a chapter. So you can share how your chapter travels, or you can just dive into the questions. That is up to y'all.
All right, I guess I can share a little bit about our chapter first. So it's been a while since our chapter has attended district convention. First, of course, as everyone hasn't, but I haven't been to a district convention in person, and I don't think anyone in our chapter has. But how we're kind of going about travel plans right now is just getting a list together really early of whoever's interested in going, and and then trying to make plans as soon as possible, like getting hotel rooms, carpooling, of course. The main thing too is that also we have for schools that also have Kappa Kappa Psi, it can be good to work with them to plan out rides and hotel rooms and things to save money. That could be really helpful. And if you don't have a Kappa Kappa Psi chapter, you could also coordinate with schools that are close by to ride together and all that.
Yeah, that's a great thought. And it's a good point to mention collaborating with Kappa Kappa Psi chapters. That is awesome. Before we really dive into the questions, do any sisters from Zeta Rho have anything to add about traveling? It's okay if not to.
Well, regarding the first question, when it comes to who is over our traveling planning and everything, it's usually our president, unless she's not available and we have to pick someone else.
Yeah, that's a solid system. That makes sense to have it go through your president and then work from there. Sweet. So diving into those questions, y'all can decide who's going to ask what, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. So go ahead whenever you're ready.
Yeah, let's answer that first question. Ours is pretty much the same. Like, it's just something we discuss at the beginning of meetings and the months leading up to convention.
I think it's a really good point to mention. You said like the months leading up to convention. It's really good to be proactive on your planning for convention. It can be tougher when you start thinking about it in like February, March, and you're like, oh crap, conventions in April, because I've done that like for like a lot, and it's not as fun. So thinking like even in the fall of like, okay, we know convention is at this time every year. How are we gonna get there? That's really important.
Yeah, and the second question is, how does your chapter decide who is in what hotel room, who's taking what car, who's carpooling with who? For us, this isn't much of an issue because we have a smaller chapter and convention is a little far for us, so we don't have as many people going, where just everyone who's going is going to be in the same hotel room, going to ride in the same car. But if we did have to split it up, it'd be easy. We would probably just use like an Excel sheet and have people sign up for slots.
Yeah, I'm really curious to hear how like Elizabeth answered my question. I was gonna ask how Alpha Z does it because there's a lot of Alpha Z people here today. How does Zeta Rho do it? Like, have y'all like coordinated groups and stuff for convention before?
Oh, hello. And I just wanted to add, this is also our first convention of the current members. So this is why it's so helpful, because we don't really know as much right now. But usually if we like do travel like to certain places, we have designated drivers, because it's not as many of us as well. So I'll say it's about 2 or 3. And when it comes to splitting up the cars, people usually drive in the cars with people they live the closest to, and whoever they're in the cars with is who they will be staying with. So it'd just be easier because we're already split up. So it's just easier to keep it in the same groups. And then, so we keep track of that, and we, our secretary, she'll have it, she has everything, she writes everything, types everything down, and then every information we have, like leading up to it, we'll have it, and we print it off for everybody so they can have their own individual information of everything that's going on. So we can keep track and everybody's always aware of what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's solid. I'm so excited that y'all are gonna have this convention experience. Like, for this in-person one to be your first one is super amazing. Like, I'm so happy about that.
I am too.
Looks like the last question is, do you have any tips for a chapter who is traveling for the first time in a while, which I think that is all of us. So I did get to go to a national convention in person, and I think the main thing that I learned from that was just like it is completely okay to ask questions. In such a big convention, I know this is gonna be a little smaller, which is good. It can be very confusing to even like figure out where to check in, when you need to register, where all the rooms are. everyone at NatCon was extremely nice and helpful, and I'm sure it'll be the exact same way at district convention. So it's okay if it seems like you're lost or something, and just don't be afraid to ask for help. Does anyone else have any input on that?
Go ahead, Rachel.
Sorry, I don't want to speak without being given permission, but for further input, this is also basically my chapter's first time traveling in a very long time, and we're all kind of new to it, but I would say for the first day, maybe wear like something TBS wise, so when you go to the hotel, they can see that you're a part of an organization, either Kappa Kappa Psi or TBS, and hopefully can direct you in the right place when you're checking in. And then as far as the road trip goes, I know we're kind of, we already talked about this earlier too, but for us, we're emphasizing on bringing road trip snacks, just because depending on how far away your chapter is, it's probably a good idea, or like, yeah, depending on how far away your chapter is and how minimal time you have before you need to get there, it's probably a good idea to bring some snacks so you can prevent like stopping on the road to pick up food. But I know that was already emphasized like during the convention, and then also just during the road trip. Thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Council, but I believe we have a road trip playlist on Spotify, right? Like there's one that people can look up. Cool. I don't know what the link is, but I'm going to find it right now. I'm going to drop it in this chat. Give me like 5 minutes. But while I'm doing that, if Lindsay has thoughts, go ahead. Sorry. I did not see your hand.
So my chapters just run into a little bit of a so I ended up planning it, even though I'm not the secretary and that's what they do, but we have 6 people going, but like a typical car only fits 5 people. So I'm just not really sure what to do because I'm the only one who has a car. Does anybody have like suggestions?
Are there any? Do you guys have a brother chapter?
This is including the brothers.
Oh, okay. Is there a chapter that's close to you that might have people going?
There's one pretty close. I can probably reach out to them.
Yeah, that might be good because they might, if they only have like 1 or 2 people going, it might be nice to have another person as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. If there are not any other thoughts on that, we can go ahead and move to our next topic, which is hosting a marketplace table. And Katie Foster will be talking about that one.
Yeah, so first I'll just start out with like a quick overview of what marketplace kind of looks like since it's been a while. So basically what marketplace is at various points throughout the convention, they will have marketplace time, which is everybody's in like a big room. Sometimes in my experience, it's either been in like a lobby or in an auditorium setup, which I don't know if any of you guys were at the auditorium setup one, but that was so difficult. So I hope it's not like that this year. But so it's usually a big room where chapters can sign up in their like if your president is registering or your treasurer, they can sign up to have a table. I think it's $15. Correct me if I'm wrong, per chapter. Yeah, it wasn't ideal, but it was still fun. But so I think it's $15 per chapter for one table, and you get this table. And you can bring like all of the merch that your chapter has, whether it's like shirts, sweatshirts, hats, stickers, any of the above, as long as they're officially licensed, and during these various marketplace times, people can come around and just do little shopping, and it's really fun because everybody brings cool stuff, and it's like the best time to stock up on Sigma gear if you're looking for it. And yeah, so that's what marketplace is. And hopping into the first question, which is, how do you know that your merchandise is made through a verified vendor? Does anybody have any thoughts on this one? It's a very important question.
So you can look at the national website, tbsigma.org has a list of all of our official vendors. I don't remember under which tab, so I'm gonna look that up right now.
Yeah, we could drop that in the chat. Does anybody planning to do a marketplace table? Alpha Z, do you know what you guys are bringing? Not to put you on the spot.
You're fine. We have a lot of like extra merch. So we have like bags, we have stickers, we have hats that I know we'll bring, among probably a few other things too.
Nice. And do you know if they're verified vendors?
I'm not quite sure, but I think I trust the person that made them, but I will be checking before now that you bring
Good.
this up.
Good. Yeah, so oh, Julia just dropped the link. So this is just like the list of vendors that are verified through TBS. So it's good to take a look at this. If your merch is old and you don't even remember when it was bought, you could maybe check the tags and see who made it and see if it lines up with what's on that list. I think that's a pretty straightforward topic, but if anybody has any questions on it, feel free to unmute. And this also goes for, I don't know how many of you have joined our Facebook group where we can sell merch, but you also want to make sure you're verified in that too. Yes, you can ask places to get licensed too, which would be cool. So everybody can start using that place too. All right, next question. How is it okay to sell handmade letters? Yeah, I believe so. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, but I think it's totally okay to sell handmade letters. That would actually be super cute. I'd love to buy some handmade letters. I actually just bought at Aldi, this is totally off topic, but I bought this little tiny sewing machine for $15 and I was planning on sewing up some letters for a convention. Okay, totally off topic. Next question, how does your chapter determine pricing for goods? One thing, I mean, obviously you can go off of what your chapter spent to purchase the items, and maybe add a little bit so you get some money back for it. But one thing that I saw at the last in-person convention, which was my favorite thing in the world, was the Chi chapter sold like a bundle of stuff for, it was such a good deal. I want to say it was like $50 for like a sweatshirt, a hat, a fanny pack. It was awesome. And like, I'm sure they priced it reasonably, but if you have maybe some older stuff that you're just kind of trying to get rid of, throwing it in a bundle is like super cool idea. And I would totally buy it. Does anybody else have any thoughts on pricing? Caitlin?
I guess one of the considerations too is like considering what you might want to pay for it. Because I know if you put a hat at like $30, for example, no one would want to buy that. But then if you put it at $5, that's undercutting you. So kind of thinking about balancing that.
Yeah. And that's a great way to get, maybe your treasurer involved. Well, your treasurer should definitely be involved, but having your treasurer involved who is, got some experience with your chapter finances and asking their opinion can definitely be super helpful. Yeah. Any other thoughts on that one? Ooh, yeah, scoping out other tables. Yeah. So you kind of want to see what other people are selling things for, and maybe that's a little helpful too for, if you aren't super, experienced bringing stuff to marketplace, maybe you can start developing a plan for next year too. See what you want to sell, because I think marketplace could definitely be a good fundraising opportunity for your chapter if you kind of plan it out right and know what you're going to bring and know what you're going to sell it for. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
I will say something not relevant, which is like my specialty, but marketplace is literally the best part of convention. Said what I said, just because like I love seeing all the things that sisters make, and I get so excited to get like new TBS shirts and stuff. Like I lose my mind at marketplace. I mean, obviously like ritual and banquet are like really the best parts, like the bonding, but like God, I love marketplace. It's gonna be so lit this year. I cannot wait.
It's so fun. Marketplace, it's a little not exciting to talk about like pricing, but oh my gosh, I'm so excited for Marketplace. Especially since it's been so long since we've been able to actually like buy stuff. I feel like I'm in a TBS gear drought. Alrighty. Can chapters share a table? I'd have to ask the counselors on that one. I believe. Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you just have like one chapter sign up for, because just one person has to register for it while you're doing your registration. So yeah, I believe that would be good. And some chapters do, like I know Row sells KK Psi stuff too. Like we have scarves that we sell that are both TBS and KK Psi. So if you're looking to market anything towards the brothers, you can totally make, like if you're buying anything from a vendor, you can totally get KK Psi stuff too to sell, as long as you just don't wear it. Yeah. Let's move on to the last question. Well, I kind of already started talking about this one. Who is your marketed audience? Is it only for sisters or anyone in the bond? And can these goods be sold at convention or maybe somewhere else too? What do you guys think? There's a few parts to that question, so feel free to think about any of them. Julia?
Yeah, so I'm just thinking about the latter half of the question, which is can these goods be sold at convention or somewhere else? If you want to do that, I especially encourage you to make just band themed merchandise too, because there is nothing against that. And if you're worried about like getting licenses on time and stuff, like you can always sell like generic band stickers that aren't TV Sigma specific or Kappa Kappa Psi specific. Like I know my chapter has a Redbubble store that has both Sigma and like band stickers. So it's like we can take those to convention, but if we didn't sell those, like we can still sell those at our music school and still make profit. Because like having TB Sigma merch is great, but being able to use it other places too is really helpful.
Yeah. And even if you have TBS stuff that you're trying to sell after convention or at a non-convention time, we do have that Facebook marketplace group where you can drop those. It hasn't seen a lot of action yet, but I'd love to see it get going because I feel like we all miss buying merch. Yeah. And does anybody else have any thoughts on that one? Or maybe the first part of the question talking about who are you marketing to?
I think you should also think about like how long sisters have been in the sorority, because I know like when you're new to the sorority, you're like, I just want to have t-shirts, like I want letters, I want big and little letters, that kind of stuff. But like if you've been in the sorority a little bit longer, you're like, I want more niche stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like this shirt here, like I got it at NatCon. It's really cool. It's not like letters because I'm like, I got enough letters. So having both letters and non-letter things to appeal to different like years of membership in Tau Beta Sigma, and like Elizabeth said, like stuff for alumni. Like I remember one of our alumni came to NCD Con all those years ago, and like she was going nuts because there was a TB Sigma pop socket, and she was like, I can use that. And I was like, yeah, like that kind of stuff is cool. Just thinking like of different stages in the Tau Beta Sigma journey.
Can definitely second the alumni excitement.
I almost feel like alumni go like more ham for merch than active members.
I mean, if you have a steady income, you know, like
that's what I'm saying, because you have an income and you're like, I don't do Sigma as much anymore. So when you get to, you go like crazy about it for a second, you know?
Yeah, I think my goal in life is to buy the Pearl, what is it called? The Pearl badge. Well, cool. I do just have like one more thought to add to this before we wrap up this topic, because it's more of a logistical thing. But one thing to keep in mind with your marketplace table is that you do want to have somebody manning it. So kind of thinking about that ahead of time, like, you know, during this marketplace session, who's going to be in charge of the table, who's going to keep track of the money. That's a big one, because you want to make sure you're keeping track of your money. You know, who's going to hold on to that during convention. Who's going to be manning the, don't leave your money laying around. Definitely. It's okay to keep your merch like under the table, but don't leave your money with your merch. Have somebody take it with them, and have somebody be designated to do it, so that nobody's like, oh, somebody else will get it, because sometimes people don't. So yeah, I mean, we don't have to have a conversation about that, but if anybody has any questions about it, feel free to be sure. Yes, how are you going to collect funds? Are you just going to do cash? Are you going to have a Venmo? Do you have one of those cool, like, what are they called? This, where you can swipe your card on the phone. Those are pretty cool. But if you don't have that, that's totally okay. Just things to think about ahead of time, questions to ask your chapter, whoever's going. Yeah. Any questions about that topic, or a bunch of stuff that I just threw at you at the last 30 seconds? Alrighty. Well, if you do have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, or reach out to any of us on the council at any time about it, and we'd be happy to help.
Cool. So thank you. Before like we dive into like a quick final Q&A, like thank you to everyone who spoke today. It's really cool to hear everybody's different perspectives, and I love these NCD Talks events. They've been a lot of fun just because it's just so interesting to me, like hearing from everybody and learning about different chapters. So thank you all for coming and just learning with us. But before we take a little break before our next activity in the block, just does anybody have any questions about anything convention, like dates, how to get there, what's going to be going on, what to expect? Because we are more than happy to help you prepare for that experience. Yeah, Lindsay, what's your question?
So our like concert bands have a concert on Sunday. So I was just wondering like if there's stuff on Sunday, like if we have events, so like if we'd be able to, you know, get back in time for it.
So there is events on Sunday. That is when elections happen. But we will be done with separate session by 11:30-ish. So I don't know how you're from Lambda, so it's probably like a 3.5-hour drive or something like that. So you'll definitely be, if you leave after that, you'd be back by like 3 or 4 p.m. I don't know if that's helpful, but
Thank you. Yeah, that's really helpful.
Of course.
Man, that's a tough situation. Y'all are strong for that one. Are there any other questions about what the convention experience might be like? Cool. So if you think about anything along the way, as we get closer and closer, feel free to reach out to us on GroupMe, Facebook message, email, whatever you need to do, because we are more than happy to help. Checking out Chat, Katie, thank you for the TLDR. That's really helpful to sum all that up. Yeah, I'm so excited for this convention. I'm really happy that we get to have one in person after so long. And I know it's going to be fun. And I feel honored that I get to be a part of that as a district officer. Very cool stuff. But anyways, thank you so much for coming to this NCD Talks today. I'm really happy to say that the Chi chapter is now officially the first chapter to complete their district lyre piece in the NCD, which is so exciting to me. And Eta, Zeta, and Zeta Rho have earned half of their lyre piece, which is awesome. I'll be reaching out to y'all shortly about what else you got to do to get your lyre piece, but great work and congratulations. So our next session